When installing a Cana-Vac docket system, the first and most important step is the installation location. There are 4 criteria to consider when choosing this location. First, structural framing. Second, water lines. Third, electrical. And fourth, most importantly, customer selection. This was our first chosen installation point for our Cana-Vac docket system. We used our previous criteria to help eliminate this location. We found 2 reasons inside the wall that we couldn't use this. Number 1 was electricity running horizontally. Number 2 was structural framing in the corner. According to the Cana-Vac docket instructions, dockets are not to be installed on exterior walls. However, we should not let that be the only reason that we don't install it here. If this is the only possible location available to you, you can build a chase in the garage and re-insulate, thus protecting the docket system from any exterior weather. This is the second possible installation point that we've identified. We used the criteria we mentioned before, and we found 2 possible reasons not to use this. Number 1 was electrical running horizontally through the wall. Second is that this is a common wall to the bathroom, and that bathroom wall has been wallpapered, and we don't want to do anything to damage that when installing a docket. This is our third possible point for installation. This point, although feasible, was ruled out by the customer due to the high visibility. Lastly, this is our fourth point of installation. This spot was ultimately chosen by the customer because it met all of our criteria. It also was the most inconspicuous place, and during our preliminary testing, we found that this location serviced the entire house with one 55-foot hose.
Okay, this is a non-contact voltage detector, and this is very important in using it to locate a proper location for the docket hose management system. This will sense any high voltage that happens to be in the wall, and so once your studs are located and your 2 bays, you want to do, up with your stud, and you want to go down in the middle. If the beeper goes off, you got power. Okay, the first step in installing a docket hose management system is for locating the stud. It's important to find your stud. We've all used the stud finders. We need to find the left and the right edge. Once that is located, we also need to find the metal screw or nail that's going to be in the sheetrock. The idea is to remove the screws that are holding the sheetrock because we want to remove the drywall and reuse the drywall when we're done. Okay, now that we've removed the drywall anchors, I have measured our width and our height for the docket hose management system. We have a 32-inch width. That's center on center of the stud. And we have a 56 height. Now we paid attention closely on our stud seams because we want to make sure that we have a good backing between the left and right drywall cuts. Okay, and now in this instance we removed the drywall and we found that we had our wall was too deep. So what we needed to do is put 2 pieces of drywall forward because the dimensions require a 3.5-inch depth. So now that we have our correct depth, we need to cut and remove the center stud. And we'll do that with our tool. Our next dimension is going to be a height of 56. Remember, we have our 30.5-inch by a 56 height bay that we need to frame into. So we're going to do that by bringing a header and a footer to match that 56-inch height. I made a 56-inch notch here. Okay, that does it for putting in the footer. We've maintained our width. We filled up our cavity with wood so that we have good backing here behind the seam of our cut. The next is we're going to place our header up through the top, and we're going to place our vacuum pipe and our low voltage wire through the large hole and our 120 through the smaller hole. Okay, now that we have the header and the footer installed, it's time to put the liners in. But before we do that, we need to give the cavity a real good cleaning, so it's free of debris. Okay, now that the interior of the wall cavity is clean, the next step is to apply the rear liner. Now, the rear liner gets installed with a 3M product called Super 77. They also make a 3M product makes high strength, which is an extra strong bond. The way we do this is we apply it. It needs to be applied to both the back wall and to the liner itself, and then both pieces will bond together. And be quite liberal in your application in the middle. And now we're ready to install the liner. In this case, we're going to be able to tuck the ends in. You need to work fast. It does bond very, very quickly. And then we're going to apply the base. Now this gets applied, this is the stud liner. We have one short one, we have two long ones. And these are going to get applied with the staples. And then with a hammer, we'll go ahead and tap those in. Okay, now the next step is to install a piece of pipe that extends 2 inches below the header. And we've done that. And then we have our low voltage wire that we insert in the pre-drilled hole into the rough end box. And just thread it out the bottom. And then the coupler will accept the pipe, and we need to place some glue on that pipe. And then get a level and make sure that the box is level and that the measurement from the bottom plate to the bottom of the roughen kit is exactly 42 inches. Okay, to install the electrical, the roughened box does have a clamp that does remove with a screwdriver, and you can insert the clamp, the wire through the clamp. It's going to come out the cover plate, the switch plate. So what we're going to do here is remove the switch plate, and careful not to lose the screws. Place them on the floor. We're using a very small electronic screwdriver, very fine point. Very sensitive screws. Do be careful because they're just self-tappers that go into a plastic hole. When you do remove, very simply, you'll see a black and a white, and you just match your blacks and your whites. Strain relief clamp. Is in there. And because this is on a GFI 2, we do have a ground to make up. And we'll use wire nuts to connect the white, the black, and the ground wire. Okay, very important to pay attention to the positioning of the cover plate. The switch does say on and off. If it doesn't say on and off, it will have a 0 for off and a minus signal insignia for on. Do want to have the off position facing to the left. The system shuts off and then re-engages when you insert the motor back into the retractor system. Okay, and then the next step we're going to do here is put the provided spade terminals for the low voltage connection with a crimp tool. And once those are put on, we are ready to put on the liner. We made sure that the cavity is free of debris. Tuck these aside. Okay, I find it's best to start with one of the upper corners, get it started, get it tacked, and make sure that's seated, and that way gravity works for you and not against you. Now, if there is a little bit of trimming required, we can go ahead and trim. But stapling down on both sides and across the footer is required. A staple every 5 inches is plenty.